Hey, this is Jonathan, and today I'm going to be continuing where I last left off with the systems and dispatchers and whatnot. Uh, so, yeah, I mostly just took a nap today, so I shouldn't be that tired. And I don't remember what I was doing again because I never remember. It seems to be a running theme with me. My memory is not really that good. I remember reading some documentation and it seemed pretty promising, and then I went to sleep. And now that I'm awake again, it's just like, I don't know. I don't remember anything that happened at all. But at least I remember reading some documentation and thinking it was useful. So knowing at least that much is already very helpful. Yeah, they said I had to do like a whole bunch of stuff here. It's like a custom game data builder and everything. That's pretty much exactly what I'm going to have to do, I think. We're going to have the same kind of core dispatcher, and then instead of a running dispatcher, I think I'm going to have like a main menu dispatcher. We're going to have a dispatcher for every state, essentially. So because this thing is so, I guess, central to the entire application, I'm probably going to just put it at the top level with main. I don't think there's any other better place for it to go. At least in my opinion. I don't have any other ideas. So just going to call it the, well, for lack of better term, custom game data builder, I guess. I don't know what else I'd call it. I could call it like the Mini-rando game data builder. It's kind of verbose, but also this is not a good name. How about Mini-rando game data? Yeah, so we can keep both the struct for custom game data and the custom game data builder in the same module. I think this would probably make the most sense, actually. Just do that. Game data. Because it's just for the file name or the module. The actual struct name can be different. It's not going to make a difference. So let's try doing, yeah, pub struct Mini-rando game data. And we're pretty much going to do the exact same thing as what they're doing here, which means we're going to need 2 lifetimes. Dispatcher comes from, I don't know, doesn't say. Dispatcher probably is mentioned here. No? Wow. I don't know why I had such high expectations of this documentation. Obviously, I'm expecting way too much. Like, surely I shouldn't expect them to tell me where this comes from. No. That's way too high of an expectation. Sometimes you just need to not have expectations of people at all, and you'll learn to have a much happier life. It's sad but true. Alright. Let's do that. Yeah, I'm gonna just be naming all these dispatchers, whatever, the names that I expect to call them. Custom game dispatcher. Obviously, if we can reuse systems, that would be better, but I don't have any expectation that I'll definitely be able to do that, so this seems like the right way to do things. Now we're gonna actually have to have like the Mini-rando play state dispatcher for that. That one's gonna be pretty important. That one's probably gonna have several different states. Well, no, when you pause, it'll probably have, I'll probably use like a pause menu state. So that'll probably be a separate dispatcher as well, I think. Does that make sense? It probably does. Yeah. So we're going to have several different dispatchers, and we're going to just delegate to one of them. I don't really see any, like, special thing I should have to do here. I feel like it is pretty reasonable to be able to be... it's pretty reasonable to be able to enumerate all the different game states up front. I mean, most games don't even have that many states in them, honestly. Like, if you think about it. Not even like those really big games. It's like maybe like an outdoor, like, well, especially with the whole open world thing, right? I feel like there's not really that many completely different states. They probably just, yeah. Anyway, that, and I'm completely making shit up because, you know, I don't actually know. It's not like I've ever actually professionally developed a game before, but if you play a lot of games, you kind of get that feeling anyway. If it's not true, then oh well. I'm a liar. So yeah, those are all my dispatchers. I don't know why I just did that little finger dance. Sometimes I just enjoy just pressing arrow keys. It's fun. It's more of like a habit or something, or no. I guess this is why people have like fidget spinners and stuff. But for me, I don't need a fidget spinner. I just mash arrow keys because it's fun. Alright, so we need to implement custom game data, right? And by custom game data, I mean this Mini-rando game data that I just made. Also, I still never imported the dispatcher. That's my bad. So one of the cool new features I noticed in this weekend, or no, not this weekend. They don't do that for this plugin. They do Rust, IntelliJ Rust changelogs. That's right. You know, the latest changelog said that they added the ability to take like a whole bunch of use statements and just smush it into like a nested use statement, and I thought that was super cool. Yeah, that's a really useful and neat feature that that would actually make life a lot, I don't know, simpler, smoother. So definitely gonna want to pick that up at some point, I think. But for now, I'm gonna keep rolling with the current patch level I'm on. They didn't say where the dispatcher comes from, so I can only assume it comes from like ECS prelude, right? Like that seems to be the one place where you get stuff from. Yeah, ECS prelude entity system, right? Is dispatcher in this list too? I guess it won't tell me. But it would be nice if it did. So this is in its own separate module, which means I'm gonna have to add that module here. So that's totally fine. Stop. See, like, here's a good place where I would just go, like, right-click and do the whole turn into a nested structure thing, but I can't do that. And I need to actually, add it as like a module. So mod game data. And we're gonna have to actually use it. Use game data. What? Why is this at super? Mini-rando game data. I don't know why you'd use super. That seems kind of weird. Why would you reach into something and then go back up a level? It's dumb. Alright. I trust that dispatcher is in the right place. Because if it isn't, then oh well. What I kind of like about this design is how boilerplatey the lifetimes are. You don't have to really like think about them. Although I guess that's true for a lot of things in Rust. I mean, that's why you have like lifetime elision, right? Elision? Is that what do you call that? I know the word is elide, like to elide something, but what is it? Elision or elision? English is a funny language. Let's not think about that too hard. Update. What does the update do? Oh yeah, this is the one that it takes a world and then a bool, but I don't want a bool because I'm not necessarily going to do it that way. Yeah, I'm going to take a enum, I think. Which is kind of funny because I don't have an enum for my states. My states are using dynamic dispatch and everything, but if I want to like switch between running different states, I think I will just want to use an enum instead. So it's a little bit weird, I guess, to think about it. Gosh, I had a name. I had like the perfect name for this yesterday, and I completely forgot it now. Man, I'm really bad, and also really sad. No, I forgot the name. Shit. How about what would be a good name for all this? State dispatcher? I guess. Oh well, if I come up with a better name, if I look at my previous video and remember what I wanted to call it, then maybe I'll change the name later. But for now, I'm just going to call it State Dispatcher. Also, it would be nice if I could actually spell properly, but like I said, English is a hard language. I don't need to check anywhere for that. Pretty sure I know what the different states are. Yeah, so those are my current thoughts for how this is going to go. I actually don't know if I'm going to need a separate dispatcher for the, like, game over, or not game over, but like, you beat the game state that I want to have. Because that state is probably going to just be like, I don't know, something being rendered and nothing else really. You press a button and it brings you to another state. So I doubt I'm gonna actually do anything special. Or actually, you know, what I'm thinking is, at the end of a seed, you should have an option to be able to save that seed. Because sometimes you don't like necessarily care like what kind of seed you get until the end, when you realize, damn, that was a really cool and awesome seed, or like, wow, that was that seed. I wish I could like share it with someone and let them try it and see how they handle things. You know, like I think that's a really cool and fun element of randomizer. So I definitely want to add some kind of ability to share a seed that you just played, even if you didn't get the seed number, or you just like did the standard game option at the title screen. So yeah, this is kind of maybe I'm thinking too far ahead right now, because I shouldn't think about that, but what do they call it? They call it running, right? Yeah, whatever. We'll call it state dispatcher. I don't know how people can come up with such like short names for everything. My names always end up being so long and verbose. It's hard to come up with really good descriptive names, I find. All my like world, like that's nice and short. And here I am with state dispatcher. I mean, it's hardly the longest name I've used, but it's already kind of on the longer side. I guess custom game data isn't really short either. Or custom game data builder. Yeah, I guess state dispatcher is not so bad. It's just the variable names become a lot longer when you do stuff like that. Yeah, gonna make sure that we don't have any non-exhaustive patterns issues here. So we'll do a main menu. Well, I have to do this. Why is this complaining? What? Why is it expecting an exclamation mark? Did I do something wrong? Oh, fun. I forgot the function. Wow. Can't believe it. That's kind of silly. Oh, and of course world is not here, so I'm gonna have to do this. Alright, sounds good to me. Yeah, so they just do like self, and then they take whichever dispatcher, and then they dispatch it. So I don't really want to really be doing like dynamic dispatch here. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. I mean, I don't think it's going to make a big difference if I did, but I feel like it'll be a pain in the butt to make that work. So I'm not going to bother. That's my reasoning. It's probably not the best reasoning, but it's reasoning. You don't have to deal with problems if you completely avoid them. And they pass in world.res? I don't even know what that is, but okay. I mean, it has to be part of world, right? Like, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do that. So, okay. Okay, yeah, and I just need to run the corresponding dispatchers for each of these. Yeah, this does seem very repetitive, but this game isn't going to be that big ultimately, so to me it's not going to make a really big difference if I do this. I guess it's a little bit error prone because I could just do like, oh, custom game, and not remember to actually change the dispatcher here. So that's kind of icky, but it's either this or we use dynamic dispatch and trade objects and stuff, and I'm not even sure how feasible that is, trying to do that with the dispatchers. I mean, I guess it could be done. Like, my thought there is you'd impl dispatcher for would that make sense? Impl dispatcher for each of your dispatchers. Like, you'd create custom dispatchers. Well, they're all dispatcher, right? Like, the types are all dispatcher already anyway, and you're just calling dot dispatcher and you're passing in the world.res. So that doesn't really make sense, does it? Like, the way that this would work is instead of passing in an enum to determine which one you'd run, you would just pass in the dispatcher that you want. But that dispatcher has to live somewhere. And the only place where I know it definitely has to live is in Mini-rando game data, I think. Because, yeah, that's where you get the dispatchers from to begin with. I wonder if there's a way you could, like, simplify this in some way. I don't know. I feel like it isn't really that easy. It's certainly something that might take a bit more thinking to reduce like this kind of code repetition, but I'm okay with it as it is, at least for now. If it becomes a problem for whatever reason, then maybe I'll try and actually think about it, give it some more thought. But yeah, this is fine, and as it is, I don't need to worry about anything else. So there we go. That's update for our rando game data. And now we're going to have to implement a custom game data builder using Amethyst Core ArcFed pool. Yeah, okay. Just want to look things over quickly and make sure I haven't missed anything, and then move on. Core, I completely forgot what it was called. Nice. ArcFed pool, okay. That's probably all I need. I don't think I need anything else in this class. So I'm just gonna create the Mini-rando, what was it, game data builder right here. Yeah, should try and adhere to the camel casing as much as I can, or some people like to call it Pascal casing. I think I'm not really familiar with Pascal, so I don't really know what that is, but I'm used to calling this upper camel case, and the one where this is a lowercase letter, lower camel case. That's what I've seen, and that name scheme is a lot more, I guess, consistent to me. It at least seems more logical than just saying this is Pascal case. It's like, well, you have to know what Pascal case, you have to know what it looks like in Pascal, right? Or you have to know that this is generally what it's called. Whereas like lower and upper to me is very clear in its naming. But I guess, you know, some people like to name things in certain ways, like, you know, Catmull, ROM, curves. Those are another case of that. So I need to create a constructor. Do I have to implement like default or anything? I can't remember. No, I have to implement this data init thing though. Okay, so there's more. I can't just do this. It's kind of funny that they would show this being used, but they won't tell you about data init. I feel like this documentation is slightly worse than it could be. Just maybe. It's a little bit sloppy. Otherwise, it's not bad. Oh, they do implement default. Wow, I completely glazed over that. That's my bad. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna have to make different dispatcher builders as well. Oh, yeah, that sucks. Because I don't even know where dispatcher builder comes from. Probably also in ECS Prelude, but how would I know? You know, I don't want to take any chances. Okay, well, it's probably an ECS Prelude, considering that there's 2 star imports, and one of them is for Prelude and the other is for ECS Prelude. Oh yeah, here we go. This is very clear. ECS Prelude, Dispatcher, Dispatcher Builder. So there we go. I feel like I shouldn't have to look that up in the actual source to find it though. Like, I mean, I guess I could have looked it up in the API docs instead, but still, like if the book is using these things, it's a lot nicer if you can just see it in the example instead of having to look it up somewhere else. Those are my 2 pennies for this, for today. Sometimes I think I like to complain too much. That's probably true. But at least I'm actually, you know, moving forward with my life. Alright, it was here that I want to look, because this one does the whole default thing. Do I have to, like, use standard default or something? I actually don't know. It's been a while since I've implemented default for anything, and now I don't remember where I did it. I think I did it for, what, input? Input uses default, right? No? Someone was using default somewhere. I definitely know that much. I guess I erased it because I didn't need it. That might have been what happened, and that seems pretty likely. Yeah, I probably deleted it at some point. Oh. Okay, that kind of sucks. But, yeah. I'm bad. I'm bad. I don't always remember to do things the right way. I guess, like, document. Oh, man. I could have sworn I had implemented default for someone, somewhere. But since I didn't, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. If it doesn't recognize default, I'll just, you know, try and figure out where to import it from. It is really annoying, though, I will say. It is those two, right? Yeah, it is. Just those two. So we're gonna do this again. You know what's kind of funny? They have core dispatcher up here for the dispatcher, and then I added main menu dispatcher, custom game dispatcher, play dispatcher, and down here there's go core, because they didn't want to write core dispatcher builder, so now I'm just going main menu, and kind of just following the same pattern. This is how you write less verbose names. You start cutting words. And you just kind of go, yeah, well, people should understand it. Doing this finger dance is kind of annoying, actually. So instead of doing that finger dance more than once, I'm just going to do this. Well, I've already done it more than once, so that kind of sucks, but that'll do. That will do. Now we implement default. Stop. I might need to use the lifetimes there. Let me see. Yeah, I do. Okay. That's kind of what I figured, because it takes 2 arguments. And default just calls into the constructor. Fair enough. The only reason why I'm defining default here is because I'm pretty sure that it's going to call default once we use it. Kind of like what Specs was doing. It's kind of funny how they talk in the... If you look at the documentation for default, it says that it's rarely used, but you see it being used so much here. And you have to kind of wonder, like, is it really that rare? Or should they update their documentation? Because I'm seeing default being implemented for a lot of things in Amethyst. More than I think might even be recommended. Yeah. So I figured I really should get like a different monitor for doing research or something, but at the same time, doing so would mean, well, it'd eat up more space, for one thing, on my desk, which is already fairly cramped. And the second thing is, come on, what do you, right, I need to implement stuff for it, such as new. So the second thing about adding another monitor is that you wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing there unless I like switch to it, which would kind of defeat the whole point. Well, would it? I'm not sure. I feel like it sort of defeats the purpose of having the second monitor, though, at least in some ways. Like, I guess I can have like OBS on one monitor and then have like two monitors for just everything else, so I could like swap between them and stuff and overlay one on the other if I really wanted to, but I don't really care. It's not important enough for me to really like invest myself in that. Also, I'm learning that this return self for the constructor is a very idiomatic thing to do. I've seen this more and more, so now I'm starting to understand that you probably want to be doing that for pretty much everything. Well, at least anytime you have a constructor, obviously. You don't necessarily want to use constructors all the time, because you might want to just have like freestanding functions, but I know some people call them free functions, but there's nothing really free about them. It's not like you paid zero monies for it. Actually, you kind of do, I guess. You don't really pay anything for them. But you could say that about methods too, so I guess they're free of their class, quote unquote. Free of being tied to a struct. I prefer like freestanding function because I feel like that describes it better, but it's probably also wrong. Why are you complaining so much? Not all trade items implemented. Missing default. It is implemented. It's right here. Oh, wait. Duh. It's not even the right trait. I'm dumb. Data init. And what else does data init want? Does it want anything? It wants a custom game data. Ooh. Okay, I get it. I see what you're going for here. And data init is part of... I don't know. We're gonna have to look it up because they didn't tell me where data init comes from. They only told me where arc thread pool comes from because that's the most important part to know about, right? I mean, it is also important, but it would have been nice to know where data init comes from. Alright, where do you come from? Data init? You come from... Amethyst, see? It comes on the top level. Would you ever expect that? I never expected that. This is why you can't trust the documentation. Or rather, you can trust the documentation, it just doesn't tell you everything. And now we want to give it our mini-rando game data, like that. Which probably requires the same lifetimes, doesn't it? Come on, stop complaining. I've given you everything you need. Oh, it needs build. Never mind. What? Oh. Did I scroll too far? Yeah, I did. I'm implementing methods in the wrong place or the wrong thing. Okay. That's my bad. I need to be more careful about that. So it's funny that they put default first before this implementation, and then they put in the implementation for data init. so I've never seen that before. To me, this makes the most sense. So it was custom game, which is also dispatcher builder. And play. There we go. In some ways, the way that default is used in Amethyst kind of reminds me of implicits in Scala. At least somewhat. Is that a weird comparison to make? This is like you don't ever explicitly call like the constructors for stuff. Someone calls it somewhere, or like they call it like default, and all you have to do is implement default, and away you go. It'll get created when it's needed, essentially. It does kind of remind me of like context passing with implicits. Anyway, that's a weird tangent to go off on. But I like going on weird tangents. Oh yeah, that's right. I was implementing even more dispatcher builders, except actually I don't need to do that at all. This one should be build. And build takes arguments, doesn't it? Sure does. Self and world. Returns custom game data. Oh wait, I don't have a custom game yet. Here I am just copying things blindly again, like an idiot. And instead of jumping back and forth, what I should probably do is just implement this first, because that just makes more sense. Oh, I need to add a with running with... Huh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to add a with blank for each of these. That kinda sucks. I guess I'm okay with that too. I'm used to this at this point. We're gonna have to enumerate everything. That seems to be a very common theme. Enumerating things just to avoid doing dynamic dispatch and stuff. With base bundle? Okay. I can probably just use that exactly as it is. It's probably not going to make a difference. Whoa, too many lines. That reminds me of that that one thread about the what was it, the arrow operator in C++ or something. It's really funny because it's actually just like it's also equivalent to like this in like a loop, you know, instead of reading it as an arrow and then a variable. It's a really funny thread. I like that one. Not for any particularly good reason, just because I think it's funny. Oh, and they have a where clause too? Wow. Nice. I like the way that they do the indenting for the where clause. Like, you gotta put the where on its own line, and it's lined up with the pub, or the fun, or whatever. And then on the line afterwards, you have an indented list of trait bounds. I think that's cool. I don't know why I think that's cool. I just think that's like a very nice way of organizing what's usually pretty annoying to read stuff. So I'm a-okay with that. System bundle? Is that what it was? Yeah, system bundle AB. Now the thing about system bundle is I don't know where the heck it comes from. So again, I'm gonna have to go look up system bundle to find out what that's from. System bundle. Actually, does this thing even care about case sensitivity? I don't know. I don't think it does. Comes from the same place as data in it, apparently. So, system bundle. Seems good to me. Also, probably result comes. This is probably the other result, isn't it? This is an amethyst result. Disambiguate yourself. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I hate that. Well, I understand why you're allowed to do that. Because yeah, when you have like 200,000 plus crates, and they're written all by different people, you never really know like who's going to use the same name for some function or whatever, right? Like it's going to happen. So you do need a way to like explicitly say what's being used. I know C# has like a mechanism for that with interface implementation. Like I think it's like explicit interface implementation. That's what they call it. Where you have to like name the interface you want to implement the method from. I don't know, it is related to this. That's why you can explicitly say that this is this result. But just because they offer you a solution for that problem doesn't mean that you should purposefully try to proliferate it, in my opinion. Like, was it necessary to call it result? You could have called it amethyst result instead, and then we wouldn't have this, conflict in the first place. And yeah, like and those conflicts will happen, but if you can like minimize the number of conflicts, then I feel like that's more helpful at the very least. Rather than like using the fact that there's a fix for it as an excuse to do it more. I don't know. That's my only gripe about that. I know that it exists. I know why it exists. It's just kind of silly. Where it's like we solved this problem, so since we solved the problem, let's abuse the crap out of it. Like, I guess technically it's still perfectly valid, and technically it's, it's still fairly traceable for the most part. Except for when you're doing, like, star imports and stuff. That's one thing that I feel is kind of crappy. But sometimes star imports are just the most convenient way of doing things, and, well, yeah, it's pretty much a toss-up. Some people like it, some people hate it. I'm kind of not. After reading so much source code at this point, like tracing other people's source code, I kind of prefer not having star imports at all. But like, man, is it hard to find a language that just says no to star imports, or at least some kind of like wildcard import? Hello, go away, Flux. That's not true. I like Flux. Flux is cool. Flux makes my eyes hurt less. And that's cool. And I was trying to follow an example and I got distracted again because that's what I'm good at. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to stop soon. So, should try and get a move on. What was it? Build? I like this little composition of functions chain. This is cool, although this is probably not a function. It's probably not a pure function with this. Yeah, this mutable reference here. But at least it looks kind of nice, right? I feel like when people talk about the double dot rule, this is not what they mean. But it's funny that they call it the double dot rule because it's not actually, you know, it's not actually not all double dots, just some of them. Yeah, I know. Error is from somewhere. Is there an amethyst error too? Like, that's the worst. I have no idea what error is. Is error from amethyst? Or is it from standard? Well, that's called standard error, so there must be an amethyst error. Right? I don't know. I don't know what error they're talking about. I don't see any reference to an amethyst error, though. There's an assets error. That's cool, I guess. Use error. Ugh. So there is an amethyst error, then. Use error. And progress is part of source. Oh no, that's an assets, though. So that's an assets error. Well, I have no idea what kind of error they're talking about. Yeah, see, again, like, this is the problem with this kind of way of doing things. It's just, don't do it. Just because they allow you to do it and they have a fix for it doesn't mean that you should abuse it. I think it's still a bad practice. Because it just adds confusion. If you're adding confusion, I think that's just not a good thing in general. Alright, an okay self is what they return. That's what I want to do as well. Alright, there we go. That's done. Now I don't have to feel bad. So as far as I can tell, this question mark is basically if it's a result, just continue. Otherwise, return the failure. And yeah, and at the end it'll return a result. That's my understanding of how this works, and I think it's a pretty reasonable understanding too. So I'm probably going to need to add this plus send bound. So I need to figure out where send comes from. Send. Send. What was that? No. Send. I'm just examining all these different things that I've looked up in the past. Just want to make sure that I'm not actually putting things on the camera that I don't want to put on. Even though I've already uploaded so many videos with me just like typing stuff into the box and not caring. Suddenly now I actually do care. Even though it's already too late, probably. It's too late to care, and yet here I am. Sorry, that was not what I want to look for. I want to look for, yeah, standard marker trend. Or send. Trend? Sure. Let's make the trendiest game data builder. This is from standard, so actually I can nest these. More nesting. Nest all the things. Oops. Just marker and send. We're going to be doing a lot of these. So one is going to be with main menu. Gosh, this is going to be annoying, isn't it? It sure is. S. Okay. Instead of B, it's S. Now that's BS. how not to do things very efficiently by me. I could probably write an entire book about it. Hey, wait a minute. They kind of... I just realized that, yeah, normally you put the curly brace on the same line as like the function signature, but when you start adding in where clauses, then it goes here, just like in C#. So, huh. It's an interesting little style thing that I find kind of silly and inconsistent, but it makes sense though, right? If you don't put it here, then it's going to be right here. And then this code will just be directly under that, which makes it harder to read. I don't know. Maybe it's a syntax problem. They shouldn't have done the where clauses this way because it's just too noisy. I mean, I criticize them for putting it in that position, but I don't have a better suggestion, so don't listen to me. It's easy to like criticize things and then not give them a better suggestion. So I'm not really why I would want send. What does send do? Type sending transfer across thread boundaries. Okay. Right, and that's automatically implemented for things, I think, if they can implement it. So they probably have just a blanket impl for send, I imagine. Do they? I don't know, but it seems like they have they've implemented send for a lot of things. I wonder if I can find a blanket impl in here. Would it be listed in here is the real question. Would it be at the bottom? No. I think blanket impls are kind of cool. And also kind of scary. Mostly because I don't really know when to use them or how to use them that well, but I know they exist, and I've done it at least once in a really toy example, so it is kind of neat that you can just like do a blanket implementation of a trait for all types that satisfy certain conditions. Anyway, I'm just babbling about random things again, so let's go back to implementing stuff that I guess this is kind of tedious, so that's why I'm being so like I'm dragging my feet on this. So systems have to implement send, huh? They have to be able to be shared between threads? That's kind of interesting. I didn't expect that. It also takes a name and dependencies. Okay. Right. And they just return self, I believe. Yep, they sure do. Oh, right, because it's a builder. That's right. That's kind of cool. I like that. It's clever. I mean, it's kind of clever, right? Like, you could just call self dot, or, I don't know, object dot, then method name again. But the builder allows you to, like, chain it. So it looks kind of like function composition, but it really isn't. It's just like slightly more ergonomic. It's almost misleading in a way if you think about it. So maybe that's not such a great thing, but everybody else does it, so Everybody else is doing it. Great logic to live by. That's why we're using Rust, right? No, for realsies. I know that Rust isn't really like, at least when it comes to like people I've met in real life, it doesn't seem to be particularly popular. Which is pretty understandable, given how people are. They like to use the most popular things, use what the industry is using. But yeah, making your own project versus working in the industry on a project it is so different. Like how you have to treat your projects. Like yeah, it's still programming, and yeah, you're still doing like development, but it's such a different environment, and it's so different, like the way that you actually can, or like the way that you actually have to treat things, or how you code, and what you have to be okay with, you know, because like especially when you're working alone versus working with a team, it's always very different. It adds an extra dynamic. Alright, then we're just going to implement build, and then I think after that we're going to call it for the day. I don't really have any other plans. I don't want to actually use it just yet. Well, I do want to use it, but it's already like past midnight, so I don't really want to go much longer. And I've already forgotten what I'm doing too, so that's also helpful. World.read resource. Okay. Like, I feel like this episode was pretty much just implement a bunch of boilerplatey stuff while I ramble about random things. Which is, I don't know. I guess it's okay. It's just I'm logging what I'm doing, and that means that it doesn't have to be interesting. It just has to show what I'm doing. I'm still kind of bummed about that one part that I actually lost, but those things happen. That's the nature of recording. Sometimes you lose footage due to stupid reasons. You lose footage, or you lose audio, or audio like desyncs. So those kinds of things just happen all the time. At least I think audio desync is probably a lot less noticeable with this kind of thing when you're just writing code. But yeah, definitely when you're like playing a game, if you get audio desync, that just sucks, because it can kind of like ruin the experience, or at least make it hella confusing to try and understand, like, why am I hearing stuff that's happening before it actually happens? Oh, am I gonna have to do this for every single dispatcher? Because that kind of sucks. I'm just gonna have to, yeah, I'm gonna have to clone and build for all of these. That kind of sucks. Oh well. I mean, that's just the way it goes, right? So I am separating out my dispatchers specifically only by state, but there are other use cases where you might not have to do, or where you might want to subdivide it even further, and I do remember it saying that somewhere up here. Yeah, based on game state, or you need to pass data between states that aren't send plus sync and can't be added to world. So yeah, there's another reason for using game data. But actually I don't need to pass data between states that aren't send plus sync. So I'm going to just manipulate, well, yeah, I'm just gonna stick to manipulating system dispatch based on game state, and that's strictly all I'm going to be doing. I will probably have to add another pause state here, which will kind of suck. I'm going to have to add another method here, and then another dispatcher here, but It's not really, well, I don't really know the better solution, if there is one. I'd love to see what other people do to handle this. But this is roughly what they are doing already in the example code, so I'm just following along. Right, like this is the example. The example says to do this, and I have to assume that that's what's idiomatic, because otherwise it wouldn't be an example in their, like, you know, official documentation. So that's my logic. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you order, like, they label one of their dishes as like the classic or something, or the classic X. And you order that because you're like, well, that seems like they're, you know, their best foot forward, I guess you could say. Like, that's what they're advertising as, like, their classic whatever. That must be like their signature dish. So it has to be good, right? And then it turns out to be crappy. I've had that happen. I've definitely had that happen. You eat the food and you realize, you know what, I should have actually ordered something different. Why did I order this thing that they just called the classic? It's not like it was actually any good. Especially if it doesn't sound good. Well, then maybe the other dishes wouldn't have been good either. Play dispatcher, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, this is surprisingly, how do you say it? Dull. This is just very boilerplatey, tedium. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It is just that. We will have the core dispatcher. Wait, that's setup, is it? Oh yeah, and we're just gonna set up all of them, giving it a reference to world.res, and yeah, we'll just keep doing that. Does that return? No, it doesn't. Huh, for some reason I thought this function returned a result, but it doesn't. Not at all. This is, yeah. From now on, I'm just going to call these things functions, because it says fun. And it's easier for me to remember function than to try and, like, differentiate between functions and methods all the time. It's a non-pure function, but it's a function. There. That's what I'm going to settle with. And if people have a problem with that, they can go blow. Yeah, we're just gonna copy and paste this multiple times. Yeah, this is probably not the best way of doing this at all. But I don't have a better way in mind. Also, why is it complaining about this? What? It has to be a mutable reference? Oh, it is. Huh. For some reason, that never really occurred to me. I didn't notice that. This has to be a mutable reference. Weird. I would have thought I would have noticed that, but I was staring right at it and I just thought, yeah, it's an immutable reference. Sure. Alright. Alright, brain. You clearly don't exist. Oh, I'm gonna put every single dispatcher here, aren't I? Because, yeah, that's the constructor, isn't it? For Mini-rando game data. It's all the dispatchers. That's kind of funny. I mean, it's not really, but that's just how it is. Also, this new syntax is so nice. So, the way that Rust used to work is if you had a struct like this, or like, well, any plain old struct, you'd have to list out the name colon value. So basically all parameters are named parameters. But now if you have a parameter, like an actual parameter that is the same as the name of the parameter, you don't have to do the name colon. And to me that makes sense. Like, having named parameters is really nice. And in some ways I kind of don't really understand why you would want to use like new and then pass in parameters, because then they're not named anymore. Whereas when you're constructing objects like this or structs like this, you're explicitly naming the parameters, which is nice because then you know what you're passing in. Like, that's so nice. It almost defeats the purpose of, you know, doing that at all when you just, you know, have values and you pass them in to some list of arguments. It's just 2. What does 2 mean? I don't know. It could be like a minimum number of arguments. It could be length. It could be anything. Age. Right? But at least with this format, you have to be explicit. So it used to be you'd have to go like core dispatcher and then colon core dispatcher. But I don't remember which version it was. I think it was probably... It might even have happened like over a year ago now. Like, but it's in fairly recent memory for me, at least, that you had to always be explicit with that, and now you don't have to. You can just use the value as long as it matches the name, and I think that's like super awesome. I like that because it's already self-documenting, so you don't need to, you know, be so explicit, overly explicit. At that point it just becomes redundant information. But in cases where the name is different, then you still have to name it at least, so then you do have that extra context. Like, that to me is super nice, and I super appreciate that. This mutable reference, right? This has to be a mutable reference. I don't know why I said it that way, but yeah, that would allow this to work. Cool. Alright, that was a bunch of typing and a bunch of talking. Well, that's what I do pretty much most logs, but yeah, this one felt particularly typey and talky. There was a lot of, well, boilerplate, honestly. I don't really know what else to even say. Like, it was just yeah, just basically do the same thing but 3 more times because I have more game states. There's got to be a better way of doing this than the enum, but whatever. I'm settling for the enum because this can probably be fairly simple to refactor in the future. Anyhow, that's it for this episode / log. I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll continue trying to actually use this special state dispatcher thing next time.